Our ocean is connected to nearly all elements of human survival. 97% of the Earth's water is in the ocean. The ocean provides 1/2 of the oxygen we breathe. If the ocean were a country, it would be the world's 5th largest economy. For us humans, the ocean is life. But the health of the ocean is in serious trouble. We are allowing some 10 million tons of plastic waste to enter the ocean every year, threatening species, ecosystems, and our own health. Climate change represents an existential threat to many ocean ecosystems and species. We have lost 1/5 of all coral reefs and mangroves and nearly 1/3 of all seagrass beds. The damage might be underwater and out of sight, but the consequences are already affecting all of us. Any threat to the ocean is a threat to our climate, our global economy, and our food supply. Our ocean is too big and too important to fail. As we turn the tide on the COVID-19 pandemic and embark on a green and equitable recovery, let's seize this opportunity to invest in our ocean. Let's protect this precious resource on which we rely for the food we eat, the air we breathe, and the water we drink. Our life depends on it.
Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's event, a conversation with the UNDP Ocean Innovators. My name is Ulrika Modé, and I'm the director of UNDP's Bureau for External Relations and Advocacy, and I will serve as the moderator for the event. We are very fortunate to have speakers from the Swedish and Norwegian royal families, the United Nations systems, and key UNDP partners, Sweden and Norway. To start things off, we are truly honored to have our very first speaker, Her Royal Highness Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden, educated in Sweden, but also in France and the United States. Her Royal Highness is deeply committed to a range of issues, including peace building, access to safe drinking water, and of course, the oceans. She established the Crown Princess Victoria's Fund in 1997, which helps children and young people with disabilities and chronic illnesses. And in 2016, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon appointed the Crown Princess as a member of Sustainable Development Goals advocates for the Agenda 2030, our roadmap, our compass. Your Royal Highness, the floor is yours. Can I ask, Your Royal Highness?
Yes. You hear me?
Now we can hear you. You're most welcome.
Brilliant. Your Royal Highness, Special Envoy, Minister, Administrator, dear innovators, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be able and having this opportunity to address you on this very special day, World Ocean Day. Like many of you, I've been lucky to spend much of my life by and sometimes on the sea. Some of my fondest memories are from there. From fishing with my father in a small rowboat on the Baltic Sea to now watching my own children play in the water on summer days. And I'm sure that just like me, Crown Prince Haakon will never forget when we traveled together to Svalbard, also in company of Crown Prince Frederik of Denmark, in order to deepen our knowledge about the alarming effects of climate change. I am grateful for these and other experiences. They have definitely contributed to my interest and commitment to ocean sustainability. As an alumni ambassador for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, I consider it a privilege to be able to focus especially on the issues relating to Goal 14. Ladies and gentlemen, just like the global goals are linked to one another, ocean health is linked to sustainable human development. global food security, livelihoods, and poverty reduction. For a very long time, the seas have given us humans what we need to survive. We have depended on the ocean and its gifts. But now, with climate change, pollution, and overfishing, we are at a point where the ocean depends on us. It is time for us to give back before it's too late. Ladies and gentlemen, while the ocean is under enormous pressure, it is also full of treasures. Under the surface, along with the diverse array of marine life, lie unique opportunities for us to contribute to solving the great challenges of our time. Dear ocean innovators, it is gratifying to see the diversity and the tangible ambitions of your ideas with solutions to one of the biggest threats to ocean health, marine pollution. Hopefully, your work can contribute to more generations being able to experience all the wonderful gifts that a healthy ocean brings. I wish you every success with each of your unique innovations, and I look very much forward to learning of their progress. So once again, the best of luck and thank you.
Many thanks, Your Royal Highness, for sharing both Sweden's and the royal family's perspectives on the critical importance of ocean sustainability to both, as you were saying, people, prosperity, and the planet. I would now next like to invite Ambassador Peter Thomson, a friend and the Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Oceans, to share his views to help to set the overall context of today's event. As former Fiji ambassador to the UN and president of the General Assembly, Ambassador Thomson was the prime mover behind the game-changing UN conference convened in New York in 2017. And you did that, Peter, together with Sweden at the time, and I was happy to be part of the design in Sweden at the time. Shortly after this, the Secretary General designated Ambassador Thomson as the first UN Special Envoy for the Ocean, an envoy we really need. Ambassador Thomson, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ulrika. Thanks for those kind words. Your Royal Highnesses, wonderful to see you again. Thank you for joining us. To the UNDP Administrator, to Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all courtesies observed, and greetings to one and all. Look, you may have heard my daily mantra, no healthy planet without a healthy ocean, and the ocean's health is currently in decline. That is not an alarmist statement. It's based upon the scientific conclusions of the IPCC, IPBES, and other relevant scientific bodies of our global community. The decline is observable in the ocean's accelerating rates of deoxygenation, acidification, and warming, with their kick-on effects of dying coral and rising sea levels. It's observable in the ongoing destruction of coastal ecosystems, kelp forests, seagrass meadows, wetlands, and mangroves by human activities. It's observable in the fact that FAO reports we are continuing to overfish a third of globally assessed fish stocks. It's observable in the accumulation of plastics and microplastics in the ocean, from our beaches to the oceanic gyres, from sea surfaces to the deepest ocean trenches. How did we get to this regretful situation? We got here because our hunter-gatherer proclivities imagined that linear exploitation of finite planetary resources could go on forever. We got here because in the mid-20th century, we introduced plastic into our lives and bought the pup that told us a throwaway lifestyle was okay. I like to imagine a world in which the industrial age took place, but not on the basis of fossil fuels and the internal combustion engine. I like to imagine that human genius foresaw the dangers of the former and instead powered the industrial age through renewable energy derived from sun, wind, and the ocean's many forces. The damage has been done, but human genius is playing catch up, moving us quickly as possible to a renewable, recyclable, sustainable way of life on this planet. Science and innovation are key to the vital transformations required. It's thus laudable that UN member states, in their collective wisdom, have placed science and innovation at the heart of the theme for the UN Ocean Conference to be held in Lisbon next year. And I'm in Lisbon today to start the talks of preparation. Coupled with the UN Decade of Ocean Science now underway, ocean science will give us the firm bedrock on which to build the sustainable blue economy that is going to give us the food, medicines, carbon sequestration, and renewable energy we need for a resilient future. So, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies and gentlemen, I'm addressing you today in the knowledge that the UNDP Ocean Innovation Challenge is bringing inspired innovations to the acceleration of Sustainable Development Goal 14's implementation. Innovations that are inspired by nature and in turn act for nature's well-being. I applaud UNDP, CEDA, NORAD, and you, the inspiring innovators, for your diligent commitment to this challenge. As the old adage goes, act as if what you're doing makes a difference, because it does. You are acting. You're bringing beneficial action to one of the great imperatives of our times. So on behalf of all who care about the healthy ocean, I thank you and I say more power to you all.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Thompson, for those, as always, straightforward but also inspiring words and sharing your perspectives on both challenges and opportunities pertaining to successful achievement on the SDGs of the oceans, SDG 14. And in particular, also the issue of reducing marine pollution and transitioning to a circular economy. This needs to happen now. We need to act now. It is now also my honor to introduce our next speaker, Sweden's Deputy Prime Minister Per Bolund. Mr. Bolund has served as Deputy Prime Minister of Sweden and as Minister for the Environment since February this year, and has been the co-spokesperson of the Green Party since May 2019. He has previously served as Minister for Financial Markets, an important area of work in this regard, and as Minister for Housing. Deputy Prime Minister Per, was a friend of mine. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ulrika, and Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, Innovators, and Ocean Friends. It is a true pleasure to speak to you today on the World Ocean Day. And I wish to thank the UNDP for inviting me, and also for putting a spotlight on this very important issue, how we can and must tackle the challenges related to the ocean. The SDG 14, Life Below Water, reminds us that there is a blue world underneath the ocean surface, a world that is full of life. As we heard previously, the ocean generates at least half of the planet's oxygen, and a big part of that comes from the coral reefs. These reefs and all the life that is under the ocean surface are threatened by many aspects stemming from climate change. The ocean and its inhabitants are also facing another threat from growing amount of plastics in the ocean. Since every second breath comes from the ocean, these threats are also affecting humanity. Poor and vulnerable coastal communities that are dependent on the ocean resources are hit the hardest when the continued decline in ocean health and degradation in ocean coastal ecosystems continue. It was estimated that in 2018, there were already 11.1 billion plastic items that were entangled in coral reefs. Items like bottles, diapers, cotton swabs, and food wrappers. And this was only in the Asia-Pacific region. Microplastics are also found in disturbing quantities in the air, in the soil, and in the freshwater resources. Even the sea breeze that we breathe contain very small particles of plastic. This is an acute crisis that we, as a global community, need to address in a coordinated manner with global effective responses. Dear friends, the United Nations Environment Assembly has highlighted that there are key gaps in the international plastic governance. Therefore, a key priority for my government is to strengthen global governance by deciding upon a global agreement to address this urgent challenge. And fortunately, at this point, over 2/3 of the United Nations member states have publicly called for exploring an agreement. However, to be successful, our future does not only depend on government's action. Innovative solutions are needed to modernize our society. We need to rethink how we deal with plastics from beginning to end. And we need to address the full life cycle of plastics. And I cannot stress enough the importance of the design phase to respond to the challenges that we face from plastics. And you, as innovators, have a key role in the joint effort to liberate our oceans from plastics and to ensure that we reach the SDGs within the 2030 agenda. And I wish to thank you for your very hard work and for your commitment to serve our planet. The Ocean Innovation Challenge is a great example of how we can jointly accelerate progress on SDG 14 by identifying, financing, advising, and mentoring truly innovative and entrepreneurial and creative approaches to ocean and coastal restoration and protection. The IOC will sustain livelihoods and advance the blue economy. And Sweden is proud to be the largest contributor to the Ocean Innovation Challenge, together with Norway. So I look forward to listening and learning about the innovative solutions developed in the Ocean Innovation Challenge. Thank you very much.
Many thanks for your insightful and inspiring remarks, Deputy Prime Minister, underscoring then, of course, Sweden's tangible commitment to realizing the ambitions of SDG 14, and with special thanks, of course, to the government of Sweden for providing the initial inspiration and also the seed money for the UNDP's Ocean Innovation Challenge. It is your support that has made this work possible, and it's your support that has made it possible to really look for the solutions that we will see today. Now, our next speaker is UNDP's Administrator Haakon Steiner, a former Executive Director of both UNEP as well as IUCN. The Secretary General and UN General Assembly recently appointed Haakon for a second four-year term to continue to lead UNDP's work in helping countries eradicate poverty while protecting our planet. Haakon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ulrika. Your Royal Highness Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden, Your Royal Highness Crown Prince Haakon of Norway, Minister Deputy Prime Minister Per Bolund, my colleagues, Director General Bart Solhel, and my dear friend and colleague, and who again has spoken also so eloquently, our Special Envoy for the Ocean, Ambassador Peter Thompson. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, having listened to the remarks that have gone already before me, I will put my speech aside because I think we all realize how on World Oceans Day we have much to be concerned about, but also much to celebrate. And particularly with the Oceans Innovation Challenge today, I think we are combining precisely these two things. In December of 2020, UNDP published its 2020 UNDP Human Development Report, and many of you may have heard of it. It took the lens of the Anthropocene to explore the next frontier in the future of development. And I think, as Peter already said, and others have alluded to, also Your Royal Highness Crown Princess Victoria, understanding the ocean is understanding both our planet in its vulnerability, in its resilience, in its ingenuity, and the inextricable dependency we as humans have in terms of a healthy ocean. And I think it is, in some ways, this age in which we live, in which acidification, deoxygenated zones, collapsing fish stocks are indicators of precisely this moment in time where, as a human species, we have become truly a dominant part of what happens on this planet. The beauty is that when you are a dominant part of something, you can choose to either destroy or to conserve. You can protect or exploit, or you can use resources sustainably. The Ocean Innovation Challenge that UNDP launched in January of 2020 with the generous support of Norway and Sweden is precisely an attempt to understand that it is in human ingenuity that the greatest hope for the 21st century lies. That in the entrepreneurship, be it scientific, commercial, or be it for social and common good, that we discover the solutions that will actually help us to solve these great 21st century challenges. And these innovative approaches cut across a wide range of technological, policy, regulatory, and innovative approaches. In this instance, it was for 14.1, target 14.1, to reduce marine pollution. For instance, in the Philippines, studies show that about 1/3 of plastic waste reaches the ocean. And in response, the Fortuna Coconut Cooler is the first cold storage product of its kind made from discarded coconut husks. Who would have thought that they actually have a second life quite along these lines? And that it can compete with the expanded polystyrene coolers on both price and performance. With support from the Ocean Innovation Challenge, a new project will enable small-scale seafood and produce traders to make use of these biodegradable, long-lasting coconut-based coolers. Among a range of benefits, the project will create new green jobs and reduce ocean plastics pollution by 50 tons per year. Now, I can see some of the armchair critics and commentators saying, oh, 50 tons, just look at what we are dumping. But you know, change in human history has always begun with the first step, and it is that which we are celebrating today. So let's also look to the widespread use of industrial fertilizers, another very Anthropocene age phenomenon that has become ubiquitous in our lives, in our ability to feed the world, but also increasingly destructive. And the phenomenon of runoff waters into the oceans, the extraordinary expansion of deoxygenated zones, they are not just foreboding problems, they are actually an indication of how serious the situation has become. So with much of the nitrogen and phosphorus escaping into the waterways and oceans, we now have to deal with another way in which we can feed ourselves without killing life in underwater. And with support from the Ocean Innovation Challenge, Ficostera, a marine biotechnology company, will demonstrate how sustainably harvested seaweed can be used to produce fertilizer that reduces nutrient pollution, improves crop yields, and saves farmers money in Mexico and Morocco. And indeed, in a network of UNDP's accelerator labs, we are discovering that these ideas now travel instantly, because this is the beauty of the 21st century, digital connectivity, the ability to learn instantly from one another. And I know that our accelerator lab in Namibia, for example, is equally pushing the frontiers on precisely this front. Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the incredible ideas and solutions are out there. What innovators need is the tailored support, be it from UNDP, the United Nations, from foundations, from governments, from industry, from the market, from consumers. And our partnership with the Ocean Innovation Challenge with Norway and Sweden is precisely one of those opportunities. As the New World Ocean Assessment makes clear, ocean sustainability depends on us all working together. And it is also a moment in time at this very moment. As Peter will often say, we are coming out of a terrible moment in human history. We are facing extraordinary challenges. Green recovery is an integral part, but so is the blue recovery. The ocean states that we often call small island developing states that often are at the frontier. These are our opportunities. This is our commitment. And on World Ocean Day, we celebrate the pioneers who make us believe in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Haakon, and thank you for underscoring the essential role of innovation and really thinking outside of the box in accelerating progress on SDG 14 and the other SDGs, of course, through our accelerator labs. This underscores the key added value that new mechanisms such as UNDP's Ocean Innovation Challenge actually provides the achievement that we can make towards the 2030 agenda, with great support of the global ocean leaders, Sweden and Norway. And of course, we thank you for the support and the work that you lead in UNDP and the work that we will develop on the Ocean Innovation Challenge. We will now share a short video to introduce UNDP's Ocean Innovators, and then I will be back.
Every year, the Maldives generate about 25,000 tons of plastic waste, and due to poor waste management practices, as much as a third of it ends up in the oceans. With support from the Ocean Innovation Challenge, we'll be helping the Maldives to put in place an extended producer responsibility framework that will close the loop on ocean plastic pollution.
Here in the Comoros, in the heart of the Indian Ocean, UNDP is working with government to address the challenge of ocean plastic pollution through the promotion of innovative financing mechanisms for the collection, reuse and recycling of waste. That addresses both pollution, but it helps to promote economic opportunities for local communities and the private sector.
Costa Rica discards 550 tons of plastic daily, and 80% of it goes to the ocean,
impacting ecosystems and communities.
Expanding existing laws
This project will create policies to address these problems.
By establishing a recycling deposit refund system,
incentivize reduction in fishing net pollution,
strengthen regulations on cigarette disposal.
Some 5 to 12 million metric tons of plastic waste now enters our ocean every year. A wide range of policy responses have been applied by different countries as they try to address plastic pollution. This innovation will create the world's first global plastics policy tracking tool, which will help stakeholders at all levels to identify and replicate best practice in plastics policy development and implementation. The project will also identify trends in plastic policy tools as a means to predict plastics material flows.
Microfibers released from textiles is a major source of microplastics pollution in the oceans. Our OIC project works with textile manufacturing in Asia and cutting-edge research that improves industry understanding of microfiber release from textile manufacturing. We aim to inspire innovation to reduce microfiber release from the production stage and see industry-wide change to tackle this urgent problem in a socially just and economical way.
Styrofoam and polystyrene foam are the most common insulation in perishable food transport. Millions of styrofoam boxes are produced, sold, and discarded every year. In the Philippines, studies show that up to 20% of this plastic waste ends up in our oceans. Fortuna's coconut coolers are the first cold storage container insulated with discarded coconut husks, and it competes with polystyrene on price and performance. Seafood and produce traders save money by switching to our long-lasting coconut coolers. In fact, they helped us design it. This project will also support new green jobs and reduce CO2 emissions from upcycling millions of coconut husks instead of burning them as waste.
The widespread of industrial fertilizers have created a major challenge in the ocean due to the runoff of phosphorus and nitrogen contaminants. These create dead zones at the sea ecosystem, which are a major cause of concern.
With support from the OIC, Ecosterra sustainably harvests seaweed from the ocean that can be used to help farmers save money, increase their crop yield, and be more sustainable and non-polluting.
Like many small island developing states, Cape Verde faces problems with coastal eutrophication.
Our project for value will use digital technologies to help Cape Verde wastewater treatment sector to optimize biological removal and recovery of nutrients as biofertilizers, promote the safe use of treated wastewater for agriculture, and help reduce wastewater treatment operating costs.
Well, of course, there is no better way to celebrate this World Oceans Day than to look at solutions to the problems that we're facing. It is now with great pleasure that I would like to introduce His Royal Highness Crown Prince Haakon of Norway. The Crown Prince Haakon will lead us on a series of brief conversations with each of the innovators to learn more about their motivation, their approach, and ambition behind each of their innovation. Your Royal Highness, you have been, and we are happy to say that, UNDP's Goodwill Ambassador for 18 years now. I know that you have oceans and SDG 14 as one of your main priorities. So I would like to ask you, why do you think that innovators and entrepreneurs have such an important role to play in contributing to healthy oceans?
Thank you, Ulrika. First, Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it was really interesting to hear the other speakers before me. And we are now going to move on to the part where we are talking to the innovators. So I'm very much looking forward to that. The SDG 14, as has been mentioned, life underwater is a goal that unfortunately where many of the arrows are pointing in the wrong direction. Our oceans are not in balance, and our job now is to bring it back into balance. And we need transformational change to make that happen. And of course, then we need these entrepreneurs that Ulrika mentioned. We need these people that look for new solutions, that work together and are aiming to scale up their initiatives. We need to work together, of course, and apply new technology and thinking in new ways in order to make that happen. And the other thing is also, of course, that the ocean holds all these important solutions, also to the sustainable development goals. But all that depends on that we're able to keep the oceans healthy. And we really need to change the direction of the development there. So I'm very much looking forward to speaking to the panelists. We have a great panel here today with 3 groups, and we're going to kick it off with the first group, where we're going to talk about this increasing producer responsibility. They are focused on extended producer responsibility schemes for, in particular, plastic pollution. And the projects are in the Maldives, the Comoros, and Costa Rica. So I would like to welcome Fenella, Morten, and Alonso to the floor. So Fenella, what would you are with the UNDP country office in the Comoros. I'll start with you. What is the challenge in the Comoros regarding plastic pollution?
Well, thank you, Your Royal Highness. And first of all, to say Happy Oceans Day to you and all the distinguished panelists. It's really an absolute pleasure to be able to join you today and to showcase this critical issue in the Comoros. First of all, just to remind everyone that the Comoros is a small island developing state in the center of the Indian Ocean. And in 2019, the government sent out its blueprint for the sustainable development of the country. And this identified a number of critical sectors as key to drive both the economy and social development. They included tourism, handicrafts, the blue economy, and sustainable agriculture. But they also identified a number of risks that really had to be acted upon in an integrated fashion to be able to capitalize on the opportunities I just highlighted. And one of the critical risks highlighted was the issue of waste management. Now, just to flag, waste management in the Comoros addresses both or undermines both ecological, economic, and health. And that's why the government has really identified it as a priority, but has also taken a number of important steps. This includes setting up a new waste management agency, but also banning single-use plastic bags. However, there is a lot still to do. And this includes the fact that enforcement is still not in place. So every day we see more and more single-use plastics being used and thrown away. There is also an absence of a recovery and recycling system. And most importantly, there's a lack of public engagement. And just to put it into real context for you, every day we see waste being thrown directly into the ocean. That's a problem for Comoros, but it's also a problem for the rest of the Indian Ocean, given the high interdependence of all the islands in that critical area of the world.
Right. So how have you gone about doing, implementing new ways of seeing this, doing this? Explain how the Comoros innovation will help close this loop on ocean plastic pollution.
Well, thank you so much, Your Royal Highness. We're so excited to be part of this Ocean Innovation Challenge. And the real idea is to set up a legal and financially sustainable mechanism to enable the circular recovery of plastics through a national buyback mechanism. The idea is to pilot this in one island of the country. And that island has recently been acknowledged by UNESCO as a World Biosphere Reserve. So it's a hugely meaningful place to start this exciting work. The idea is in the island of Moali to set up a partnership between the local authorities, civil society, and the private sector. The project will allow communities to have alternatives to simply throwing away single-use plastics. They'll be able to sell them on, and that will give them critical revenue for their families and their development. Secondly, it will enable the Biosphere Reserve to really be showcased as good practice because it won't be put at such risk by plastics being thrown into the ocean. And then lastly, it will enable, we hope, the further flourishing of the private sector locally, because of course the idea is that through the buyback mechanism we can also transform this waste into new products that can be utilized locally and we hope at the regional level. So this partnership is absolutely critical. It's also critical not just for the island, but also for the rest of the country, because we're really hoping through the work we do together to showcase good practice and to scale that up both in the Comorian context, but also in the rest of the Indian Ocean. So the idea is that this project, Your Royal Highness, is good, not just for communities, but also the economy and of course the environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vanilla. I'm now going to move over to you, Morten. You are with Adelphi. And I'll ask first, what was the inspiration for you to apply this new approach in the Maldives? And why do you feel that it will be successful in the Maldives?
Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness, and warm welcome to all attendees from Berlin, Germany. The Maldives is an amazing archipelago with unique natural features and a highly diverse ecosystem. The coral atolls, as well as other marine flora and fauna of the Maldives seas, are now under pressure, as we heard, also from increasing amount of littered plastic waste, as well as unsafe waste management practices. So the government of the Maldives is addressing this situation via a strategic action plan and a single-use plastics phase-out plan. At the same time, it also seeks to integrate principles of extended producer responsibility, EPR, in close collaboration with the private sector and also civil society. So as part of this project, by supporting the Maldivian government in developing this EPR scheme, we hope to successfully pave the way for a circular economy practice and safely managing plastics at the end of life. To date, actually, what we've seen, there's been very little efforts and introduction of EPR schemes in the developing world, including small island developing states. So our hope is also that the Maldives can serve as a role model in this case to replicate these approaches to other parts of the world.
So describe to us then how the introduction of a container deposit law in Costa Rica sorry, that was the wrong question. What is the most important factor for successful extended produced responsibility implementation in the Maldives?
Thank you very much. Once again, Your Royal Highness. EPR is an approach that was first developed and successfully applied in Scandinavian countries. So it's very suitable, speaking to this round today. And that was already back in the 1990s. And there's been a host of experience gathered around this principle. So following the polluter pays principle, the goal of EPR is essentially to shift the responsibility, including the cost for collection, recycling, disposal of plastics and other wastes, to the producers. This leads to a reduction in the number of plastic products that are put on the market, the packaging and circulation, and also basically incentivize innovative solutions, leading to less pressure on waste management systems and municipal budgets and less overall plastic pollution. So in our understanding, the most important factor for the successful implementation of EPR is to involve all stakeholders in the plastic sector, ensure their full support. That includes the producers on the one hand, but also retailers, consumers, and of course the governments, making the scheme extensive but not exclusive, and thus creating a level playing field for all.
Great. Thank you, Morten. I'll move to you now, Alonso, from 1C. Maybe you could say a little bit, how has plastic waste impacted Costa Rica?
Sorry. Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness. What an honor and a pleasure to be here. Like many countries worldwide, Costa Rica up to this day has not yet been able to sort, collect, and effectively recycle or reuse most of its plastic waste. Because of this, most of our plastics get buried into our rapidly filling landfills, or even worse, they end up in the environment, as we've been talking about. So once in the environment, the rain washes it into our rivers, and then these take it to the ocean. So every weekend, dozens of volunteer organizations collect tons of waste from our rivers and our beaches, and in a never-ending cycle of inefficiency and missed opportunities and pollution. Costa Rica's nature-loving image is challenged with every disposable bottle that's consumed that ends up in the environment or forever buried in a landfill.
I mentioned this question already by mistake, but now maybe you could say a little bit about or describe a little bit how this introduction of a container deposit law in Costa Rica would impact on plastic pollution.
It would have a great impact, actually. We think that a well-implemented container deposit system in the country would greatly improve the health of our parks, our rivers, our beaches, and in many different fronts, actually. First, a container deposit law would completely reduce litter from beverage containers directly, because given the inherent buoyancy of the plastic bottles, water streams easily transport them all the way to the ocean. In other parts of the world, mainly in Scandinavia, which has been a personal model for me, and other countries in Europe, by financially incentivizing consumers to return the single-use bottles, container deposit laws have proven very effective at closing that loop on single-use plastic bottle waste. Container deposit law would also provide the much needed safety net that would dramatically reduce the amount of plastic entering the country by entering the environment by closing that loop right from the beginning. Also, a well-established container deposit system would increase recycling and encourage long-lasting designs, capitalizing on the current lost opportunity of millions of tons simply being discarded as waste. And finally, a well-implemented container deposit law would ease pressure from our fragile waste collection systems and landfills, as right now, most of those plastics end up having to be collected, transported, and buried using taxpayers' money. A container deposit law would transform this altogether, shifting the cost of this cleanup and waste disposal from government and taxpayers to producers and consumers of the beverage containers, while extending the usable life of our tax-paid landfill funds.
Thank you very much, Alonso. We will see the three of you again. I'll call you back when we're finished with the whole panel, but thank you for this brief introduction of your project, and congratulations on winning the support from the UNDP. Well done.
Thank you very much.
That concludes group one. Now we'll go to group two, where innovations to reduce plastic pollution is the main focus. We, of course, need a mix of policy and technological innovations to reduce plastic pollution. Global plastics, we are going to hear about a global plastics policy database. One of the projects are working on textile manufacturers and microfiber shedding from clothing, and also affordable biodegradable coolers. So I would like to invite Rachel, Karen, David, and Mara to join me. There you are, very good. And I would like to start with Rachel from the Global Plastic Policy Inventory. Could I ask you this question? Why did you decide to develop a database for plastic policies for government?
Sure. Thank you so much, Your Royal Highness. In early 2019, we began a research project that was intended to describe and assess the plastic pollution policy landscape on the subnational, national, and international level. And so what we wanted to do is we really wanted to assess the design for policies that demonstrated an intent on behalf of governments to go above and beyond sort of your standard solid waste or port reception facilities management and approach plastic pollution at the production, trade, use, and disposal stages. And so essentially we wanted to find a central repository of information about what governments are doing about plastic pollution, and we couldn't find one. And so we decided to build it ourselves. And so with generous support from the Pew Charitable Trusts, we spent a little bit over a year going through international legal databases, secondary and gray literature, and news feeds, among others. And we read through absolutely everything. And we were able to extract an inventory of policy documents and begin to assess trends in how governments are responding to this problem. And we learned a lot from that process, but two of the most important lessons were, one, that we never wanted anyone to have to do that ever again. And two, that it could be useful for other people to have access to the policy documents themselves. And so in 2020, we put them online as a public good, and we found that it has been useful for the community of practice. But we know that like all databases, it'll become obsolete if it isn't updated. So with all of your support, and we thank you so much, we will spend the next 12 months both updating the inventory and expanding its resources so that it will be as useful to the community of practice as possible.
And what will the project do to promote the effective uptake and replication of effective plastic policy and regulatory approaches?
Yeah, thank you again, Your Royal Highness. We see the inventory as really a starting point for policymakers, grassroots groups, advocacy organizations, and researchers to see the breadth and diversity of policy approaches that have been taken by governments. We find the policy documents themselves to be really instructive because, as we say in the States, the devil is in the details. So, you know, how are governments defining what plastic means in different contexts, and to what extent are they adopting innovative policy solutions and recommendations? What the policy documents can't really tell us is the extent to which they are actually working. So that's what we call effectiveness. And while that's very difficult to measure, we're really hoping that with this resource and other resources that are being provided, we can drive more momentum to track and monitor effectiveness of policy solutions so we can really identify what is and isn't working and what enabling factors are for successful implementation. In the short term, we really see the inventory as a signal to which cities and countries have formally committed to addressing plastic pollution. And our aspiration is that we can use this inventory to hold governments accountable for the promises they have made, as consistent with UNEA Resolution 46, which committed to monitoring government responses to plastic pollution.
Right. And are you launching this globally all at once, or do you have any sort of pilots first, or how do you do it?
Yeah, so we've launched it and it's mostly been in English. So there is an English language bias. I think sometime this week we're going to update it so there are policy documents in languages other than English. And then we'll also be doing case studies on specific countries where we'll be diving really deep into both their national and subnational policy landscapes and getting as much information as we can on effectiveness.
Great. Thank you, Rachel. Karen, I'll go over to you from the Forum for the Future. Love the name. You are working in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken. What are maybe you can tell us a little bit about microplastics and what is the relationship between the textile manufacturing and the ocean and microplastics?
Thank you so much, Your Royal Highness. Thank you for this opportunity to share about our project. So yes, I can tell you a bit more about microplastics. So actually, microplastics are small pieces of plastics that are less than 5 millimeters in size. In the oceans, microplastics from a variety of sources, including larger plastic debris that degrades into the smaller pieces that are microplastics. But there are also other plastics such as microbeads that are intentionally designed to be very small. So studies are now telling us that microfibers from textiles are actually one of the main sources of microplastics that are found in the ocean. In fact, 35% of the global release of microplastics into the world's oceans are actually coming from the textile fibers. So in other words, the clothes that we wear and the fashion that we all enjoy, this is actually a major source of microplastics in the oceans.
Very good. And why is addressing microplastic in textile manufacturing important?
Yes, thanks for asking. So research is actually showing us that the degree of microfiber shedding when we wash our clothes is very much influenced by a number of factors. For example, the textile properties such as yarn type or the construction, as well as different kinds of chemical or mechanical treatments that textiles undergo. So this means that how our clothes are made has potentially a big impact on how much microfibers are released into the environment, such as the oceans. However, there is still very little understanding on exactly why and how microfibers are shedding from the textiles in the production stage. So our project will undertake this cutting-edge research that's needed at the production stage to understand the impact of each of the various stages of the textile manufacturing process, such as spinning, dyeing, or knitting on microfiber shed. So once we know which parts of the manufacturing process impact microfiber shedding the most, then we can enable textile manufacturers to come up with solutions through design, process, or technological innovation. And by reducing microfiber release in the production stage, we can expect that we will naturally be able to reduce microfiber release from the user stage as well.
Very good. And how will you ensure that the best practices in textile manufacturing and processing that you identify through this project will be transferred and implemented by textile companies?
Yes, thank you for this important question. We actually believe that the problem of plastics pollution is too great and is too complex for any one organization or person to tackle on its own, and that all stakeholders, we must work together in new ways. It is therefore very important for us that the lessons and best practices from this project are shared to the wider industry and beyond. And one of the key components actually of this project is the open sourcing of our research data and methodology, so that the fashion industry and other researchers, they're able to replicate or build on the research that we have done in this project and experiment with implementing these suggested changes. So once we have the research results, we will be engaging the industry in Southeast Asia, because that's where a lot of the world's textile manufacturing takes place. We hope to reach out to other stakeholders who want to know more about the project and how they can also implement changes. We also want to demonstrate that textile manufacturers too, they can lead innovation and change towards a better future, that they don't need to sit in the shadows of the fashion brands. So to have healthy oceans and a sustainable future, everyone must step up in their own ways.
Very good. Thank you very much, Karin. Now we'll go over to Fortuna Cools, to David and Tamara. So now to the coconuts and what we can do with coconuts. You are working, as I understand it, in the Philippines, right? And this inspiration is often sparked, I find, from this, a single moment. What was the moment that sparks the idea of this coconut cooler?
Thank you, Your Royal Highness, and thank you everyone for being here, supporting ocean health. It's really an honor to be sharing our work with you, and really appreciate this particular question because we love talking about our origin story. We first spent months working on fisheries and food waste in the Philippines, trying to figure out that we could both preserve food and cut costs at the same time. And we just kept coming back to the cooler, this white foam box that is ubiquitous all over cold supply chains, yet at the same time, it's always breaking or leaking, or it's missing a lid, or literally sometimes it's even just blowing out to sea. But then again, it's cheap and it works decently well. Well, if you find yourself taking enough trips to fishing villages in the Philippines, you will start to notice that you're constantly driving by huge piles of coconut husks, because coconut farming is really the only other industry in these rural areas. And so it was a total pipe dream, but we realized that if we could use the immense amounts of leftover coconut waste to build a better cooler, we would have a local, scalable, and affordable solution. Just gave it a try.
Great. And explain to us the economic benefits that coconut harvesters and fishing companies will realize by shifting to this Fortuna coolers instead of the plastic ones they used to use.
Yes, absolutely. So coconut farmers and fish suppliers both face razor slim profit margins today, sometimes even losing money when global commodity markets dip. And Fortuna pays coconut farmers up to $50 per harvest to buy their leftover waste, giving them and their families a crucial, consistent lifeline. Meanwhile, we are also cutting packaging costs for fish suppliers in half, since Fortuna coolers last many times longer than polystyrene. And of course, just as importantly, we're designing and building all of these products in rural areas alongside local communities, bringing brand new opportunities to places that don't traditionally see much investment or good paying jobs. So with OIC support, Fortuna coolers are increasing coconut farmers' income, we're reducing costs for fisher folk, and we are dramatically reducing the amount of polystyrene marine waste in Southeast Asia.
Well done. Very impressive work, everyone. So I will say thank you to Group 2 now, and we will see you shortly back on the screen. And we'll move over to Group 3, addressing the challenge of nutrient runoff. So nutrient runoffs into the oceans is also a big contributor to marine pollution. Wastewater treatment, we're going to hear about wastewater treatment in Cape Verde, and cultivation of kelp seaweed and using it to produce fertilizer. So Jorge and Luis, if you could join me on the screen, that would be fantastic. We will start with Jorge. You, as I understand it, work in Aqua in Silico and in Cape Verde. What makes Aqua in Silico unique from existing wastewater treatment technologies available?
Thanks, Your Highness, for the introduction, and thanks to everyone that are assisting today, and mainly those that are in Cape Verde. It's a great pleasure to talk about the digital tools that Aqua in Silico has been developing. In simple words, these tools incorporate unique algorithms that were developed based on more than 30 years of in-depth knowledge of biological and chemical process in wastewater treatment plants. Unlike other commercial solutions, these tools predict with high precision the microbial performance of actual treatment plants and detect possible problems before they can be diagnosed by humans. Potential applications include decision support of different operational strategies, operator training, and online optimization for environmental compliance and resource savings.
And tell us how the technology of Aqua in Silico is developing with the Ocean Innovation Challenge support. How will you develop to help reduce wastewater emissions to coastal areas?
With the OIC support, we will be applying digital tools to accelerate the sustainable development of the wastewater treatment plants in Cape Verde. So a small island developing state located in northeast of Atlantic Ocean. And we will also promoting a circular economy to reduce emissions to coastal areas. So in this project, the main objectives are to increase the biological removal and recovery of nutrients and avoid the use of expensive and toxic chemicals. By doing this, we are reducing the emissions of nutrients because the biological process rely on specific groups of bacteria that remove nutrients from the wastewater and produce a biological sludge that can be recycled to produce biofertilizers for agriculture.
Wonderful. These are really important improvements. I wish you all the best in developing this even further. So, Luis, I will now move on to you. Ficos Stera, you work, as I understand, in Mexico and Morocco. And I would like to ask you, and you're working on seaweed and utilizing seaweed for fertilizer production. And where did this idea for kelp-based fertilizer come from?
Well, thank you, Your Royal Highness, and thanks everybody in the Ocean Innovation Challenge for joining. It's a very great pleasure for us to be here with you. Well, our story started diving in a kelp forest, and then once we were out, seeing the local farmers collecting the seaweed, which was laid off from the shore, and then, well, after that we said, well, this seems to be working from local farmers. Then we initiated an in-depth academia research. Then we knew and then we understood that the nutrients in the sea are captured by the seaweed, and then they can be reutilized as a nutrient for the agriculture. And this is exactly where our name comes from. Ficos, which is seaweed in Greek, and terra, which is soil in Latin. And basically this is what we do, seaweed for the soil.
Very good. And what are the advantages of kelp-based fertilizer over industrial fertilizer?
Well, there are many. On the one side, fertilizer is very much intense in energy. It's very much intense in pollution, is very much intense in chemical, and whereas we are not. And secondly, we are taking all of the active ingredients from the sea, which are very, very fruitful, and then we are bringing back to the soil. So there are a big number of advantages of using these organic fertilizers on the sea, so that they will not generate the runoff on the oceans.
Very good. And how will you ensure that the sustainability of the kelp that you harvest and the overall kelp ecosystems you work in?
Thanks, thanks for the question, Your Royal Highness. This is very important for us. On the one side, we are now starting to work on certified fishermen that collect the seaweed, but now we are also working on certified farmers, which are farming the seaweed, and hopefully these new farmers will be developing much more. And basically, this is our main source of biomass. Very important, of course, not to deplete the biomass in the ocean. So this is a very much main driver for us.
Very good. Thank you, Jorge and Luis, for this brief introduction to all the interesting work that you are doing. I would like to now invite all the ocean innovators to come on screen so that we can see all of you at the same time. Hopefully that will work. When talking to these innovators, I really do feel hopeful, because we talk about the problems so many times and they are substantial. There are a lot of challenges also with ocean health, so that we're able to use this time and just talk about the solutions. I love that. That is very, very good. And thank you to all of you for the amazing work you do. There you go. These are then the winners of the UNDP Ocean Innovation Challenge. So I can hear the applause, the clapping out there. So it's really amazing to hear what you're doing, and that you are finding solutions to these rather complex problems. It was mentioned by some of you that, if we are able to find the best way of doing this, we can maybe promote that also to other places in the world, and that way good ideas can spread all across the globe, so we can really make a huge impact to a more positive ocean health. So you provide these concrete solutions and move from talk to action, and I really like that. So thank every one of you for that. To really turn SDG 14 around and create a more healthy ocean, we need broad partnerships. We need entrepreneurs and policymakers that think outside the box. And we need private sector's innovations to succeed as well. And for them to succeed, they need to be profitable so that we can provide this win-win solution. Maybe we can be able through that to turn this, the very dynamic around, where that sort of drives a lot of the destruction of the oceans, namely profit seeking. If we're able to make profit for doing good for the ocean, that would really be fantastic. So I'm very much rooting for those of you who are working on that. Congratulations again to all of the UNDP Ocean Innovation Challenge winners. And also, when we're listening to you, I think all of us are reminded that we all can actually play a part in contributing to a more healthy ocean. So thank you for inspiring us today. And I would like to say a happy World Ocean Day to everyone that has been following this panel. And that concludes it. Ulrika, back to you.
Happy World Ocean Day, and thanks, Your Royal Highness, for taking us through this interactive journey with the UNDP's Ocean Innovators. And rest assured, we will use UNDP's global network with presence in 170 countries to bring these ideas also to the world, and also to use the network to bring on even more ideas. Now, to wrap up today's event, I would like to thank Norway, of course, also for your strong support to the UNDP's Ocean Innovation Challenge as a pilot contributor also to what we're seeing here. and to invite them the Director General of the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, Bård Vegar Solhjell, to make the closing remarks. And Bård Vegar is a dedicated champion on climate action, nature-based solutions, and Agenda 2030. Bård has served as Norway's Minister for Education from 2007 to 2009 and as the Minister of Environment from 2012 to 2013. And prior to his appointment as Director General of NORAD, he served as the Director General of WWF Norway. Bård Vegar, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Wow, what an inspirational hour. Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, dear innovators. This was a total breath of fresh air, really. It leaves you so optimistic. I sometimes call myself an empirically based optimist, but that I mean that humanity has shown that we have the ability to fight off big challenges and solve really grave problems. We created advanced economies that made social and economic progress possible. We fought off smallpox, history's worst disease, and almost polio. We rebuilt countries and continents after wars. And the last generation or so, we have halved child mortality globally. We've done this through international cooperation, of course, through trade and aid and the UN and so on, but also, to make it possible, innovation has been key from the start. And it's easy to forget, that, the steam engine, that was innovation. Electricity, vaccines are of course innovations. The UN itself was an innovation in its time, and modern birth care. And I don't know what will be the next great innovation. Maybe the coconut cooler, I was thinking when it was presented here. But I do know that to be able to create that kind of transformational change that His Royal Highness Crown Prince Haakon talked about, innovation is key. And that kind of transformational change is really needed to deal with the grave challenges that we are facing in the world oceans now. And to have a transformational change, you need innovation. And to have innovation, you need a lot of people trying to innovate. And to have people trying to innovate, you need to finance the development of innovation. And that's the key reason why we have partnered with SIDA and with the UNDP to create this challenge. And sitting listening to you, I already feel that this was value. It has been such an hour. Congratulations and good luck with your future work, all of you, and happy Ocean Day. Thank you, Ulrika.
Happy Ocean Day, Bård Vegar, and thank you for these closing remarks, which unequivocally demonstrate Norway's global leadership in shifting the world towards a truly sustainable blue economy. And we know Norway's overall commitments and tangible action on SDG 14 actually set an example for the international community. So we're looking forward to continued partnership in this field. In closing, and we are a little bit late, but thanks for staying on. And it has been truly rewarding, I think, to start off the World Oceans Day here in New York with all this inspiration. I want, of course, to thank all our esteemed speakers, Her Royal Highness Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden, His Royal Highness Prince Haakon of Norway, Swedish Minister for Environment and Climate, and Deputy Prime Minister Per Bolund, and the Director General of the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation. We also heard UNSG Special Envoy for the Ocean and our Administrator of UNDP, Achim Steiner. And last but certainly not least, of course, our amazing ocean innovators for your inputs and contributions to today's World Oceans event. And on behalf of all of us, we want to again congratulate each and every one of you, and we wish you every success in realizing the ambition of your innovation, and we look forward to learning of your progress over the next couple of years and really accompany on your journey. Noting the recent close of the OIC second call for proposals, I want to share with you that is on sustainable fisheries. And we as UNDP now invite everyone to keep an eye out for the 2021 cohort of the UNDP Ocean Innovators, which should be officially announced towards the end of this year. So check out www.oceaninnovationchallenge.org to stay updated, or follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and share the world. See to that we get more innovation and more solutions to these wicked problems that the world is facing. Thank you, and wishing everyone once again a wonderful World Oceans Day.